Welcome back to Fantasy Fights. This time we're going to take a look at the top 10 heavyweights of the 1930s, a decade that was dominated by Joe Louis. At number 10, King Leavinsky, Chicago, Illinois, 74, 35, and 7, 5'11", 200 pounds. He was ranked number 3 by Ring Magazine in 1933, and it was mainly because he was a very active fighter. Picked out 2 of his biggest wins against Tommy Laughron and Paulino. Both those guys fought Primo Canera for the title in 33 and 34. So he was in pretty good company with those victories. Now let's take a look at King Leavinsky in action. That's him moving around. That's Max Barry's fighting. I believe Leavinsky won the first fight against the 2 and then lost the rematch. Of course, Bear goes on and wins the heavyweight title in 1934. Leavinsky was a very active fighter, fought just about everybody. He comes in at number 10. At number 9, Lou Nova, Los Angeles, California, 49, 9, and 5, 6'2", 202. Top-ranked fighter in 1938. Had a good win over Bob Pastor and Tommy Farr. Here he is in action against Max Baer. Now, Max Baer in 1938 was well past his prime. He was still trying to pick up some paydays. And Lou Nova is just making him pay the price. I believe this was just a beatdown. Baer was unable to keep up, and his fast living had finally caught up with him. Lou Nova, number 9. Coming in at number 8 is Bob Pastor, New York City, 53, 7, and 5. He was the second-ranked fighter in the world by Ring Magazine in 1939. Had some good wins, as you can see there. Had a 10-round draw against Maxie Rosenblum, a light heavyweight champion. And here he is in action. This is against Joe Louis. And I believe this is their first fight in 1937, a short period of time before Louis won the title from Braddock. And you can see the mobility of Pastor. Very quick. He later is going to fight him for the title and lose by way of knockout. Very agile fighter. Late in the decade, he came on. Jack Sharkey. Sharkey was not in his prime during this decade, but he still had enough in the tank left to fight for the title on 2 different occasions. In 1930, he fought Max Schmemelling for the heavyweight championship, and we're going to take a look at that fight in just a second. 37, 13, and 3, 5'11", 197. Fought out of Boston, Massachusetts, and he was the heavyweight champion of the world in 32 and 33. Remember, though, he was in his prime in the 20s. He would be ranked much higher if that were the case. We're going to take a look here at Sharkey and Schmemelling. Sharkey is on the left here, more of a stand-up fighter. Schmemelling, the German, fights out of a crouch. And this is going to be the only time in boxing history that you're going to see the heavyweight champion of the world carried out of the ring. Sharkey's going to hit Schmemelling with a low blow here, and he's going to be disqualified in the 4th round. And Schmemelling is going to become the new heavyweight champion of the world because there is the low punch right there. Remember, they did not wear cups back at that time. No type of protective gear that they have today. So a foul was rather common. And, of course, sometimes they'd call it a body punch, and sometimes they'd call it a foul. Schmemelling is carried out of the ring. Jack Sharkey comes in at number 7. At number 6, Tommy Laughron from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the former light heavyweight champion, had an impressive record as a heavyweight. 88 and 14 was his overall record. 5'11 and a half, 187 pounds. And in 1933, Ring Magazine had him as a number 2 heavyweight in the world. He moved up and down quite a bit. He's considered one of the strongest light heavyweights in history. You can see his victories over Bear, Scalp, Risco, Paulino, Sharkey. He fought just about everybody. He was very active. And here he is in 1934. He finally got a shot at the heavyweight title against Primo Canera. And of course, he's the smaller fighter here. He lost a 15-round decision and was very effective against Canera. This fight at the time was the biggest discrepancy ever in a heavyweight title fight as far as weight goes. Canera came in about 260, and as I said, Laughron weighed about 187. Number 5, Ernie Scalp, Foxborough, Massachusetts, 53-13-2, 6'2", 203. Number 2 by the Ring Magazine in 1931. And look at these wins that he had. Tommy Laughron, Max Baer, Jimmy Braddock, Young Stribling, and Tony Galento. It's not an outlandish thing to say that Ernie Scalp could have very well ended up being the heavyweight champion of the world had he lived. Unfortunately, in 1933, he fought Primo Canera. He was knocked unconscious in the 13th round. He never regained consciousness. He went into a coma. And he was really a quality fighter. He had wins over all the top fighters at that time. And here he is against Primo Canera. It looked like a routine fight. Nothing really unusual. He had all kinds of skills, as you can see. He was very fast. But unfortunately, it was not to be. Here he is in round 3, more than holding his own against the giant from Italy. Ernie Scalp, number 5 in our rankings. Coming in at number 4, Primo Canera. He was the heavyweight champion of the world in 1933, defeating Jack Sharkey. He lost the title the next year to Max Baer. They brought him in from Italy. He was seen as somewhat of a sideshow at first, but he could actually fight. 6'5.5", 260 pounds. He was the biggest heavyweight champion up until that time. He was pretty much a strong man who could actually box, and he hurt a lot of opponents. Of course, his reputation grew when Ernie Scalp died following their fight in 1933. Here he is in action, showing his power. He was a devastating force in the 1930s. He won a lot of fights. Now, some of them, yes, were they not on the level? For sure. But by the same token, he could fight. He made very little money himself. His handlers pretty much got all of his income. But he was a devastating force. And like I said, in the 1930s, Canera fought just about everybody around. Primo Canera, he comes in at number 4. Number 3, Max Baer. Livermore, California, 66-13-0, 6'2.5", 210, a very large heavyweight for that day and time. He was a heavyweight champion from 1934 to 1935, had some really solid wins. His 1931 win over Johnny Risco, 1932 win over Ernie Scalp, and his biggest win was his 1933 knockout of Max Schmemelling. That really is the reason he's ranked at number 3. That was a very solid win. And here he is in action against Primo Canera when he won the heavyweight championship in 1934. Just notice the swinging and it's just a brawl. Baer used a lot of illegal tactics. He would backhand you. Really never got called out that much for it. And you can see these tactics as he's fighting Canera here. He knocked him down numerous times during the fight. And Bear was one of the first big, strong heavyweights. Just a beast. Now, you say, well, why didn't he have a better career? Well, he did. He had a real successful career. But he was a playboy. He was called the clown prince of boxing. Always clowning around. Loved to party. Loved the women. And it affected his training. His prime was very short. Here he is against Max Schmeling in their famous fight. Schmeling was heavily favored in this fight, and nobody thought Bear would stand a chance, but Bear overwhelmed him. Here is Max Bear in training, and he, in a lot of clips, he's seen with his brother who fought Joe Louis for the title. His brother was actually taller than he was, but not quite as good a boxer. Here he is in action against Canera again. He's a big, strong guy. 6'2.5", 210. Did not take training real serious. And that's one of the reasons he had an up and down career in the late 30s and early 40s. He lost a number of fights. He just wasn't in that good a condition anymore. There he is against Tony Galeno, knocking him out. Just a lot of power. Had a real killer instinct. Max Bear. At number 2, Max Schmeling, Germany. Heavyweight champion of the world from 1930 to 1932. 6'1", 198. Won the title in 1930. We showed you a clip of that. He defended his title against young Stribling in 1931, a really quality fighter. But the reason he's number 2 on this list is because of his 1936 12th round knockout of Joe Louis. He was the only person to defeat Joe Louis in his prime. Joe Louis only lost one fight prior to his first retirement, and that was to Max Schmeling. And here's Schmeling against Louis right here, knocking him down. This is a highlight of Schmeling. Schmeling fought out of a crouch a lot of times. He could absorb incredible punishment. If you've seen the punishment he took in the Bear fight, it was incredible. Ended up being an extremely wealthy man in Germany, lived to the ripe old age of 100, and was very close friends with Joe Louis throughout his life and helped him financially. Just one of the good guys of boxing, Max Schmeling. Number 1, without question, is Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber from Detroit, Michigan, 66-3-0, 6'1.5", 190 pounds. Heavyweight champion of the world from 1937 to 1949. He held the title longer than any fighter in history. Louis was incredible. He was not only very solid in his prime, but he was very solid after he came out of the war and still won fights. And you can look at his long list of victories over almost all the champions of that period. Fought more heavyweight champions than any other fighter. And here he is in his famous fight, 1938, against Max Schmeling. Remember, Schmeling was from Germany. Hitler was on the rise in the Nazi Party. So this was a very politically motivated fight. And Louis came back and defeated him in the first round knockout. But Louis already had the title. He had gained that from Jimmy Braddock, but he said he wouldn't be the champion until he defeated Max Schmeling. Undoubtedly the number 1 fighter of the period, Joe Louis.